Hello students, welcome to Physics Wala MedEd. This is Dr. Patil, your faculty for medicine, and in this video module I will be doing a methodical analysis of recently concluded INICET medicine questions. Now this is essential because especially if you are someone who is preparing for the upcoming INICET exam, then you should know where to channelize your energy, because exam is all about smart preparation and it is not about extreme hard work. So until and unless you recognize the exam patterns, right, you will not be able to channelize your energy properly, and that mismanagement of the yield versus effort is the reason why you don't reach your goals, right? Okay, so some of you might have already given the exam and you know what kind of questions were asked. You might have attended the recall sessions of PW as well as other platforms, so you're already aware. Let us dig deep and try to understand the paper as a whole. Okay, now in this INICET examination, according to our recall, around 23 questions can be attributed to medicine. I do agree that questions were integrated and the questions can be claimed by other specialties also, right? Like pathology, pharmacology, physio, anat, biochem. They may also claim those questions belonging to them. So I cannot really say that 23 are exact number. Neither I can say that all the 23 that I'm going to claim are from medicine, because other subjects there is integration. Now out of these 23 questions that we had, according to students recall, around 10 were clinical vignette type, so making it around roughly 1/3 of the questions, or slightly more than 1/3 of the questions were clinical vignette types. So the number has not risen in the recent exam. Maybe the number has come down a bit because there were also few INICET exams where more than 50% questions were clinical vignettes, and students have difficulty in managing time in those exams. But at least this exam, even the clinical vignette questions were not very lengthy, so time was not an issue. But I cannot assure you that the upcoming INICET, the questions will be of the same nature. The percentage of clinical vignette questions might increase or might decrease. So always keep in mind that exams as such are going to be a race against time, and you should make sure that when you're taking mock examination, keep a bandwidth of time available with you so that you're mentally conditioned to finish the exams in lesser time. Okay. Now in this INICET, around 16 out of 23 questions were marked by our students as easy questions. Okay. Now what is the big deal if questions were easy? See, if the questions were easy as we expect, the cutoffs will be quite higher, because easy questions many will answer. At the same time, when the questions are easy, it also means that you cannot afford to go wrong on easy questions, because almost everyone else will be getting them right? So please make sure that your basics are good. That is always a take-home message regardless of what exam you are preparing. If your basics are good, whether the question is easy, mediocre or tough, you will be able to handle them. Okay. Now around 7 out of 23 questions were marked as difficult by our students. But again, when I personally analyze those questions, I won't rate it at that level of difficulty that we had seen in some of the previous INICET exams. This was relatively on the easier side of difficult questions. But again, it is an exam run by central institutes, and at different times, different central institutes may be responsible for setting the papers. So the difficulty level keeps varying. So simple take-home messages: always focus on the fundamentals. If your fundamentals are good, even those difficult questions, you may be able to crack them. Okay. Now, let us look at the system-wise distribution of questions. So when we look at the system-wise distribution of question, around 13% questions were from CVS, around 17% questions, one question more from CNS, around 17 again from respiratory, around 4 questions from respiratory, 17% questions from hemat. Well, let me put a disclaimer here. When I say 17% questions from hemat, obviously the pathology faculty will also be claiming that those questions belong to pathology, because hematology is a gray zone. There is limited medicine and more of pathology when it comes to hematology. Okay. Around 9% questions from gastro, maybe 2 questions. And then 4% or 1 question was from geriatrics. And remaining questions, like 13% or 3 questions, were from like various other miscellaneous topics where it was difficult for us to attribute to one system, and 2 questions were from nephrology. So in terms of system-wise distribution, I don't see any disparity. There was good weightage given to most of the systems. But at times it does happen that some exams especially emphasize too much on a particular system, and sometimes if you're not well prepared with that system, you end up losing good amount of marks, right? But as I have experienced recalling the INICET papers for a couple of years now, I can vouch to say that there's a good distribution of questions when it comes to INICET in terms of systems. Okay, but I have also seen a bias. The bias is more towards the emergency room and clinical decision making. So those things which are considered as emergencies, those conditions which are frequently encountered in the emergency room. A lot of questions appear from that, and always pay emphasis to those topics. Like for example, pneumothorax, shock. Those have been the standard templates of questions for a couple of years now. Now coming to how many questions were direct repeats from the PYQ, because like most of the faculty, including me, we suggest that in the run up to the examination last couple of weeks, focus on PYQ. So did this exam do justice if you had focused on PYQs? So from medicine, whatever 23 questions I've been able to collect, 5 out of them were direct repeats. I'm not putting the screenshots of all 5, but I have put few. So 5 out of them were direct repeats. Literally, how it has appeared in the previous exam, it was copy paste. So PYQs will continue to be the important aspect when it comes to the INICET exam, and for that matter, even for your NEET PG. But INICET has little particular notoriety that not only PYQs but PYTs, previous year topics, often repeat. For example, like see, in this year we had a question on the heart block, right? The answer was second degree heart block, but next year, instead of again asking you the same question, they might ask you a question about first degree heart block or a third degree heart block. Similarly, there was a question on making a clinical diagnosis based on the PFT. Like this time it was a condition with the bronchoconstriction. So it was a obstructive lung disease, and we could pick up the answer as bronchiectasis from the options. Next time it may be a restrictive lung disorder, but PFT based diagnosis is a PYT, right? So those PYTs you need to recognize, because they are also as important as previous year questions, in fact more important than previous year question. And our analysis of the questions based on PYTs tells that almost close to 100% of the questions were based on previous year topic. This was a bit odd this year, because in all previous years, I could say maybe 75 to 80% of the questions used to be based on previous year topics. But this year, almost close to 100% questions were based on previous year topics. So please make a list of previous year topics. Even as faculty, we will be sharing it on the social media platforms of PW, so that you emphasize and you channelize your energy more on those topics, and try to avoid running behind extremely rare topics which once in a while the INICET people might have asked. Because it is the consistency and it is the accuracy on common question that gives you a bigger result than your accuracy on the rare questions. And even when the questions are rare, with a little bit of logic, you may be able to still get to the answer. So instead of running behind rare topics, run behind the common topics. How to identify common topics? This is the answer, previous year topics, right? Okay, so that's it about the analysis of this paper. So what are the take home messages? Take home message number 1, concentrate on the repeatedly asked topics. Make a list of it on your own. That will help you recognize those topics well. And if you don't have time, obviously you can take help of the faculty members shortlist that they have shared on the social media for you to understand what are the important topics. Number 2, keep 15 days of flexibility before your examination, so that on those days you at least revise PYQs and PYQs. Number 3, concentrate on concept building, because concept building helps you to build logic, and logic helps you to answer questions even when you know nothing about the question, right? So these are the 3 important take home messages from my side. I hope this analysis will help you to tackle your next INICET exam with confidence, and I would be more than happy to get a positive result for all of you. Thank you.